Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on the journey to secondary school. My name is Heather O'Connor. I am the Deputy Head Pastoral here at SWPS School, and I'm the designated safeguarding lead. This is my colleague Amanda Stebbings, who's our Head of Year 7 and also works with me on the safeguarding team. Thank you for everyone who has submitted questions in advance of this webinar. If you do have a burning question, please feel free to use the chat function and we will do our best to answer those questions at the end of the webinar.
Thank you very much. So the first thing to talk about, I think, is the journey to school, to secondary school, which I think has two meanings. There's the physical journey, which is probably, I think you're going to expect that to be longer than the current journey to primary school. You're probably going to have a different type of journey, maybe a coach or a train. And that's going to mean a longer day for your child. So they're going to be getting up earlier. They're going to be getting home later, particularly if they're sort of near the end of a bus route, for example. I would say if you're planning on using the school designated bus route or the train, for example, have a practice. Do some exciting journeys towards the end of the summer holidays where mum or dad gets the train with you, so that you have that confidence level, or go rock up to the bus stop and wait and make sure that you are at the right bus stop and that kind of thing. It can really help to allay, I would say, your fears really, rather than the children. For them, it's an exciting journey. It's very exciting. They're going to be getting on a bus or a train. For you, it feels absolutely petrifying. Oh my goodness, where's my little child gone? They've suddenly grown up and they're on public transport, for example. So think about that, and just know that it's actually worse for you probably than your children.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying that now's the time to start thinking about what that after school and before school routine is going to look like. It is going to be a longer day. The cognitive load will increase on your child. There'll be more homework. So I think thinking about bedtimes is really important. You know how much sleep your child needs. And remember, it's probably an idea to start moving that bedtime backwards at the end of the school holidays, so it's not a horrible morning when you wake up absolutely shattered on the 1st of September, or whatever your start date might be. And it is always a good idea to get routines established when you've got an 11-year-old, rather than trying to put them into place when your child turns 14.
Yes, definitely. I would say that's extremely wise advice. Obviously, metaphorically, this is a different journey for them as well, but we're going to move through the webinar and lead you through what those changes might look like. So first of all, preparing your child for a different academic setup. Organisation is key. So I love the idea of a colour-coded timetable on the fridge, perhaps another one in their bedroom, if that's where they're going to be working. Think about where your child will do their homework. Is it going to be the dining room table, which then gets cleared away? Is it going to be their bedroom? Have they got a desk in there? Think about sort of getting them nice coloured folders and things like that to help them with their organisation. I would advise at this stage not to pack their bags for them, tempting as that is, because then you know they've got everything. It actually doesn't help them to manage their own organisation. So I would say pack with your child, get them to pack and discuss, have you put that in? Have you got your iPad in? Have you got your pencil case, etc.? So think about doing that alongside your children. Homework. They probably get some, where they're in year 6 at the moment. They're undoubtedly going to be getting more as they go into secondary school, largely because there are lots of new subjects, perhaps that they might do science at the moment, and then they'll be doing biology, chemistry, physics. So it'll be a raft of new subjects that they'll be trying out. And lots of new teachers to get to know as well. So for some students, it can be quite overwhelming. So that organisation, colour-coded timetables are definitely my thing. I'd have one on the inside of the locker at school, one on the fridge, and one on the bedroom wall to help them to manage the academic challenges.
What I would say is that all schools will issue a homework timetable with some guidance on the time limits for homework. There are some young people who will work into the night trying to make their homework perfect and getting everything in. And certainly at our school, we do ask parents to keep an eye on that. And if your child has not finished their homework within the designated time limit, ours is 20 minutes per subject, please write a little note on the homework to say, I stopped my child for 20 minutes. It does them no good to get absolutely exhausted, certainly within the first few weeks, but their stamina definitely will build up. That little one who's absolutely shattered by October half term will become more resilient. They will start to organise their time a little bit better, and they will get to know what exactly is expected of them when it comes to homework. And I do think that if you have a child that is very sensitive to change, talk to them about your experience of secondary school. Help them to visualise moving to different classrooms and having different teachers, and emphasise that as a great positive. Yes, you'll have 10 different teachers, and some of them you're going to love and some of them might be interesting, but that's all part of life.
It is. And here at Sir William Perkins, we have an electronic system for setting homework called Firefly. And that is a really brilliant electronic resource which allows them to tick it when it's done, submit the work, and chalk that one off their list.
And you can see the homework that's set and when it's due as well.
Yeah, that's right. So, moving on to some practical differences. I've mentioned already the length of the school day. That's likely to, as I say, be much, much longer. And that's whilst they're also getting used to all the new routines, that, as Heather said, is going to make them feel very tired. The journey to school, make sure that you sort of do as much of the preparation as you can of that in the summer holidays. And if you're dropping off and picking up at the school gates, you might find it's quite different for you as parents. I know at primary settings and prep settings, there's very much a culture of standing at the school gate and chatting to other parents. And it can feel a little bit like the stabilisers have been taken off and we're sending you off into oblivion on your bicycle, because it's not like that at secondary school. Parent involvement is much, much less present, certainly at the school gates. And it feels a bit weird for you, I think. The apron strings have been cut and suddenly they're independent. They've packed their own bag, they're off to school, they're their own young person, and suddenly you can feel a little bit like a spare part. So we'll talk a bit more about that later. I would say that one way of sort of getting them fully integrated into any secondary school is to join as many clubs as possible, outside of school as well as in, but try all the different clubs that are available to make friends and find like-minded people with the same interests as your children. That's definitely massively good advice. Lunches. Now, here at Sir William Perkins, we have a wonderful dining hall where the catering staff serve the children. They choose what they'd like from a range of hot and cold options. There's a lovely salad bar, etc. But you might find that you're sending your child to a school where they choose their own lunch, for example, prepaid card system. Just talk it through with them so they know what to expect. I have seen Year 7s with a tray and cutlery standing at the servery like rabbits in the headlights thinking, I really don't know. And it's extraordinary how long it can take them to make those choices. So have a chat to them about those sorts of choices, about which clubs to join, what to do for lunches. Mobile phones. Here at Sir William Perkins, we have a wonderful system. We take the mobile phones away from them in morning registration and we give them back at the end of the day in afternoon registration. It's perfect. So they get locked away in a cupboard and they get them back at the end of the day. So that's worth it.
And that's really because we want our students to have a complete break from social media during the school day. But your school that your child's joining might have a completely different system. We do have a great webinar by our e-safety coordinator, Jen Farmer, about the process of giving your child a mobile phone and how you navigate that as a parent, especially if it's new to them, and how you can put the boundaries and rules in place to help your child make that transition from a child with no mobile phone capability to a child that suddenly got the world of TikTok and Snapchat at their fingertips.
Yes. Finally on this slide, I've mentioned movement and noise level. It sounds a bit silly to say really, but what your children are probably in their own classroom at the current setting, and they're going to be moving from classroom to classroom in busy corridors where the noise level can be quite overwhelming, particularly for some of our neurodiverse young people who we certainly have some who have noise cancelling headphones, don't we, Heather? Just to help them with that movement around school. So if you're at all worried, particularly around if your child's perhaps got some neurodiverse diagnosis or traits, do ask to meet and come in before the start of the term. The Special Needs Department, SEN Department, will be more than happy. Our Personalised Learning Department here at Sir William Perkins will happily do a tour on a more private sort of level, quieter, so that your child might get a chance to navigate the site without all the noise levels.
So we know that change is difficult for any child, actually, and for families as well, and particularly for children who are very sensitive to change. And that's why it's really important that schools do have transition days. Certainly here at SWPS, we've done taster days.
Yeah.
We have those in the autumn term for our year sixes. We have a welcome party. And actually, the very first day of term is a whole induction day here at SWPS, where we give them extra time to choose their lunch. We do a treasure hunt around the school. We give them some big sisters from our sixth formers to help them nurture them along. And I'm sure that other secondary schools do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So, digital awareness, digital literacy, goodness me. It's a minefield out there, not one we had to navigate as youngsters, I'm afraid. So we're on a learning curve too. So Heather referenced earlier the webinar, which there's a link to there from our eSafety coordinator. One of the clear things she says is not to give the phone as a gift, but rather have clear guidelines from the outset that you are sort of giving this to them as a loan. It's a piece of equipment you've probably paid for, therefore you can set the boundaries and the rules. I don't want to take away from Jen's webinar. I would advise you to watch it. It's brilliant. Passwords need to be memorable. On the iPad here at Sir William Perkins, we use iPads as part of our learning tool, quite a big part of our learning toolkit. And it's always good if the students set them themselves so that they will remember them. And if you're going to set screen time on the iPad, I applaud you, but do make sure that they can still access their lessons in the school day. We've had some young people come in with iPads that the screen times run out and they can't access their lessons. So think about all the dialogue that you will need to have around that with your children. It's probably worth practicing scrolling if you're using an iPad for the first time, scrolling, navigating from page to page, having subject folders set up so that they can save their work in a logical fashion. So charging, I think there's only one answer to this. It's downstairs overnight, because then the temptation for little fingers to reach for the phone or the iPad is taken away. And we know from research that's been done that too much screen time, there's that the light that the screen emits, which does inhibit sleep. And as Heather said, it's really important that they get a good night's sleep. So get rid of the screen time before bedtime. So give them that run up without the mobile devices, I would say.
Yeah, and again, if you put the rules in place before you start year 7, it's much easier then to have those rules in place when they're 14 or 15. And it could be that your lovely, compliant little 11-year-old is quite happy to have their mobile phone charging in their bedroom, and they would never dream of looking at it at 2 a.m. But it is so tempting for the 14-year-old to look at that phone. So as draconian as it may seem, put in the rules now so that you save yourself a lot of time and angst and potential arguments later when they become much older and they really are demanding more access to their phone. And I think clearly they're going to make mistakes. This is a powerful adult tool. They've got access to the whole adult world through that mobile phone. So your child needs your support and help to navigate that. And for that reason, when they do make mistakes with it, and they will make mistakes, just remember to be really calm, keep the lines of communication open, try not to overreact by getting angry or getting tearful about it, so that your child can trust you and come to you with the next problem that they've made, because they know that you're going to be cool about it and you're actually going to help them.
Absolutely. And just be aware, you can see some of the apps on the screen there in the image. These have age restrictions on them. I'm not stupid. I know that all of Year 7 will come in using WhatsApp, but the age for that is not 11, it's 13. So just be aware of the sorts of sites that they're going to be accessing.
And I would say also that plenty of parents do say to their children, I'm sorry, you're not having Snapchat or Instagram, you're not 13. So if your child tells you that every other child in the year group has access to all those social media sites, they're not telling you the truth. So stick to your guns if you do want to put some restrictions in place for those sorts of sites.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things that people have anxiety around, I think, joining a new school is the social side and the friendships. Will I make friends? Will I keep the friends I've got if they're going to the same school? You're going to have the young person who wants to find new friends, but the old one doesn't want to let them go. And then you're going to have the one who's quite happy to drop her best friend of 5 years like a hot brick because she's found a different crowd. Change is inevitable, and the friendships morph massively through Year 7 and Year 8 as well. So the dynamics are there, the characters are there. There'll be some young people joining us here at Sir William Perkins, quite a number actually, who are the only one coming from their school, and there are others who are already in groups. So it's all to play for. I think variety is the spice of life. Avoid putting all your eggs into one basket. We talked about clubs earlier, didn't we? And that there you will find you've got your hockey friends or your netball friends, which might be different from your playdate friends that you see more of maybe at weekends. Do expect turbulence in friendships. We have another webinar on that we did last week. Heather and I have over 50 years experience between us in this field, and we're still learning. So it's really important to expect turbulence. It's totally normal. And taking a little bit from our previous webinar, encouraging empathy is really important for getting them to understand how the other person might be feeling in the situation where one wants to cling on and the other one's dropped them like a hot brick. So think about, building empathy with your child on how to navigate that. The confident child and the independent child has grown out of and learnt through the resilience of things not perhaps working out as they want. Life isn't perfect. Nobody can be happy all of the time. And I think that's a mistake that some people make. They think that childhood should be a breeze and full of perfect happiness and fluffy kittens. It's not. It's not out there in the adult world, is it? So we have to be helping our young people, I think, in managing that.
So I think what we're saying is that it is incredibly common, and all school-age girls between the ages of really 10 and 15 will experience friendship fallouts, and it can be very painful for them and for you as parents when it happens, but it is a normal part of their social and emotional development. And of course, young people develop those skills at different rates, so do expect it and just be calm and empathetic when the tough times come. And if you are really worried about friendships and they're not going at all well, please reach out to your school's pastoral team.
Yeah. So in summary, the top tips for healthy friendships are: have an open mind, let the variety be the spice of life, and do think about encouraging your children to see things from the other person's point of view. Try and avoid judging. If you think that a friend who's been a friend all this time has now dropped them, try and avoid the judgment there. Do work with the school. Heather mentioned getting in touch if things aren't right. Do work with the school and do trust us, because whilst you are going to be going through this transition to secondary school, possibly for the first time, I've been 8 years in the driving seat here as head of Year 7 at Sir William Perkins School, and there's not much I haven't seen and dealt with. So do trust and reach out to the form tutor in the first instance, and do trust the school, because we've been doing it for a long time. We do know what we're doing. One of the things that is interesting, when young people come home at the end of the day, you've got two general groups. You've got the ones who just, as the French would say, empty their bag, they dump it. They come home and they say it's been awful. They didn't understand anything in physics. They didn't have any lunch. Nobody spoke to them. It was hideous. They can't possibly think about getting up tomorrow morning and coming back in here. It's awful. There's your trauma dump. But you'll get some who will come in and they'll go, you're dead keen. You're so excited for them. How was your day? How was your day? Fine. But what did you do? What did you have lunch? It was fine. I had pasta. But and what did you do after that? You know, did you go to a club? It was fine. So whilst you're dead keen to find out what's going on, they want to just be a little bit more independent. Some of them think, that was my school day, Mum, Dad. I'm going to keep that one to myself. I don't need to tell you anything. Both of those are perfectly fine, as long as you react in the right way. And reactions, I think, can make or break their days. So if they're not wanting to give you too much information, stop pumping for it. If they're giving you far too much information, just give them a little cuddle and a bit of empathy and they'll be fine.
And they will be fine, absolutely. So do take advantage of any open days or transition days, as we've said, the school that your child is going to offer. Do check out our other webinars. We have a number on friendship and e-safety and also managing anxiety. But remember that secondary school is just a fantastic and wonderful time in your child's life. For us, it is an absolute privilege to have a child come in year 7 and see her grow and develop into an amazing, confident young woman. You are in for some of the best years of your children's lives, and you are really going to enjoy it. And you hear a lot of horror stories about adolescents out there, but I can tell you that we wouldn't have stayed in this job if adolescents weren't absolutely wonderful and delightful, and yes, challenging, but it's going to be great, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Heather. So on to
questions. Yes, there was one, Amanda, before the webinar, which was about pencil cases and what sort of equipment a child should really bring with them on their first day.
Yeah, that's a common question. So I would say the standard equipment, you know, pens, pencils, some coloured highlighters or pencils, basic maths equipment, a sort of, you know, protractor and that kind of thing, and a ruler and rubbers and things like that. I do struggle sometimes when I see what year 7 have got in their bag. There was one parent once weighed a school bag and said it was far too heavy. So I thought, well, I don't know why. Let's look at that then. Oh, well, there were 3 pencil cases. We had the one full of all the coloured pencils, another one full of all the coloured pens, plus a tin of maths equipment, plus the normal standard pencil case, and they were large. So let's try and condense it to a reasonable amount so that they're not carrying loads on their backs, I would say.
So basically just what common sense would tell you.
Common sense would tell you, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was also another question about how to manage transition if you're perhaps not in year 7 but you're coming into a school in year 8 or in year 9. Have you got any advice on that one?
Yes, I would say when we have children joining midway through a year or at different points, we try very hard in the pastoral team. We work with our colleagues in the wellbeing room to ensure that we give that young person lots of advice on how to settle, how best to go about navigating Sir William Perkins in our case, because it can be more challenging if you're not coming in with the whole of the rest of the cohort. We do obviously take in year 9 as well. Yes. So there's usually a few that start at the same time, and that tends to sort itself out. They tend to navigate as a little group. But yes, so do reach out if you feel that the school can support in any way on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So I don't think we've received any other questions. No. So hopefully we've answered them in our webinar. And thank you very much for watching us this evening. I hope you found it useful. If you do have a couple of minutes just to rate or leave a comment at the end, a little pop-up will appear. We would be most grateful. But otherwise, we wish you a very good night.
Thank you.